Punishment rarely looks like punishment. It looks like distance, silence, coldness, withdrawal, a sudden shift in tone that leaves a man replaying conversations in his head, searching for the moment he crossed an invisible line. Before we go deeper, hit subscribe and like the video. This is DepthRealm, where we expose the patterns people don't want to face. Most men believe punishment is direct, confrontation, an argument, an accusation. But psychological punishment is indirect by design. It doesn't aim to resolve. It aims to regulate, and that distinction changes everything. Women don't punish men because they enjoy cruelty. They punish because punishment is the fastest way to restore emotional balance when communication feels risky or ineffective. Punishment is not always conscious. Often it's instinctive. It begins the moment a woman feels a loss of control over emotional outcomes, control over attention, control over reassurance, control over predictability, control over how much a man invests. When that control feels threatened, the nervous system reacts. Not with logic, with behavior. The first and most common form of punishment is withdrawal. Affection disappears. Warmth cools. Interest fades temporarily. Not permanently, strategically, because withdrawal creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates compliance. Men are wired to respond to loss of emotional connection with effort. They ask questions. They try harder. They adjust behavior. So withdrawal becomes leverage. This is not love. It's conditioning. The second form is emotional silence. Not calm silence. Punitive silence. No explanation. No closure. Just absence. Silence forces a man inward. He fills the gap with self-blame. What did I do? How do I fix this? Why won't she tell me? The goal is not clarity. The goal is internalization. When a man internalizes blame, power shifts. The third form is approval manipulation. Praise turns into indifference. Validation turns into critique. Support turns into comparison. You've changed. You're not like you used to be. Other men wouldn't act like this. These statements are not about truth. They are about correction. Correction through emotional discomfort. Men respond to approval loss more intensely than overt anger, because approval loss threatens identity. Another common punishment is sexual withholding. Not because desire vanished, but because access is power. Sex, affection, and intimacy are not just bonding tools. They are regulation tools. When access is removed, the man feels destabilized, rejected, questioned. He becomes more compliant. Not because he wants sex, but because he wants reassurance that the bond still exists. This is why sexual punishment is so effective and so destructive. It trains men to associate love with performance. Now let's talk about moral punishment. This is when disagreement becomes a character flaw. You're not wrong, you're insensitive. You're not honest, you're cruel. You're not independent, you're selfish. The argument shifts from behavior to identity. Identity attacks silence resistance. Because defending your character feels exhausting. Men stop arguing. Not because they agree, but because the cost feels too high. Then there is emotional unpredictability. Warmth one day, cold the next. No explanation. This keeps a man off balance. He can't anticipate outcomes. He can't relax. He stays alert. Alert men are manageable men. Predictable men are not. Unpredictability maintains control. Now here's the part most men don't understand. Punishment usually escalates when a man becomes more autonomous. When he rests. When he sets boundaries. When he stops over-explaining. When he stops chasing reassurance. Autonomy feels like withdrawal to someone who regulates through connection. So punishment increases to restore proximity. Not closeness, control. This is where many men get trapped. They think compliance will restore peace. So they apologize without understanding. They give more without receiving. They sacrifice boundaries for harmony. And harmony becomes conditional, because punishment only stops when compliance resumes. This is the cycle. Now let's answer the deeper question. Why does this happen? Because many women are taught implicitly that emotional expression equals vulnerability. And vulnerability is risky. Punishment feels safer than asking. Asking risks rejection. Punishment enforces response. Punishment avoids exposure. So instead of saying, "I feel disconnected," she withdraws. Instead of saying, "I need reassurance," she criticizes. Instead of saying, "I'm afraid you're pulling away," she punishes distance with distance. This isn't maturity. It's defense. Another layer is unresolved attachment wounds. Fear of abandonment. Fear of insignificance. Fear of losing leverage. Punishment becomes a way to test loyalty. If I pull away, will he come closer? If I withhold, will he try harder? If I create discomfort, will he choose me? The test never ends because reassurance never sticks. Now here's the truth men must hear. Punishment works in the short term. It destroys relationships in the long term. Because punishment creates fear, not trust. Compliance, not desire. Resentment, not respect. Men who endure punishment long enough either break or detach. Some become submissive. They lose confidence. They walk on eggshells. Others emotionally exit. They stay physically present but mentally gone. Both outcomes kill intimacy. Here's where men make their biggest mistake. They try to argue their way out of punishment. They explain intentions. They justify actions. They seek logic. But punishment is not logical. It's emotional leverage. And leverage doesn't negotiate. The only thing punishment responds to is boundary clarity. Not anger. Not pleading. Not explanation. Clarity. I won't engage with silence. I'm open to discussion, not withdrawal. I won't accept affection being used as a weapon. These statements are not threats. They are exits from the game. And here's what happens next. Either the punishment stops, or the relationship reveals its foundation. Because when punishment fails, only two things remain: communication or collapse. Healthy partners choose communication. Unhealthy dynamics escalate punishment. That escalation tells you everything you need to know. Now let's address the part people avoid. Not all punishment is malicious, but all punishment is corrosive. Even when it comes from pain. Even when it comes from fear. Pain explains behavior. It doesn't justify it. Emotional harm doesn't require bad intentions. It only requires unexamined patterns. Here's the final truth men need to internalize. Love does not require punishment to function. Respect does not require withdrawal to be maintained. Connection does not need control to survive. If someone must punish you to feel secure, they are not seeking partnership, they are seeking regulation. And regulation at another person's expense is not intimacy. Men who recognize this stop tolerating cycles of emotional consequence. They stop trying to earn peace. They stop performing compliance. They stop mistaking punishment for passion. They choose environments where communication replaces control. And the moment a man stops responding to punishment, the pattern loses power. Because punishment only works on those who fear loss more than they value clarity. Once you see that, you stop chasing warmth that disappears when you assert yourself. You stop apologizing for boundaries. You stop negotiating your nervous system. And you understand something critical. Punishment is not love's language. It's fear's shortcut. And relationships built on fear never stabilize. They only exhaust. See the pattern. Protect your energy. This is DepthRealm.